evening to TTT's viewing and listening audience. We are also live via the following Facebook page, TTT Live Online. I am your host and moderator, Wendy H. Lewis, Chief of Protocol and Director at the Trinidad and Tobago Corporate Training Academy and CEO of Calabash Productions. Thank you for viewing, and those joining via TTT Live Online, welcome. The aim of this evening's panel discussion is to address the crime situation in Trinidad and Tobago. My aim is to engage experts in the field of policing and law enforcement with solutions in focus. We will be answering some of your questions at the end of the discussion. Please be guided to keep your comments clean and respectful, avoiding racist and/or political comments. This evening's theme, In Defense of a Nation Under Siege, let's discuss crime. The discussion will be moderated in 3 segments. The first segment, I would engage our first panelist, Mr. James Philbert, former Acting Commissioner of Police and Attorney at Law. The second segment, I will be joined by Mr. David West, Director of the Police Complaints Authority. Mr. Garvin Hira, who was scheduled to join, has a death in his immediate family and will not be attending as previously advertised. My apologies and condolences to Mr. Hira and his family. At the end, we will have a Q&A segment where we'll be answering questions from the TTT Live Online Facebook platform. Let's begin with our first panelist. Hailing from Point Fortin, South Trinidad, Mr. James A. Philbert studied law at Hugh Wooding Law School and the University of London. In addition, further certifications were achieved as Mr. Philbert pursued studies in regional narcotics detection at the U.S. Department of the Treasurer, death investigation at the U.S. Department of Justice, criminology at the University of the West Indies, major case management at the Canadian Police College, Quantico at the FBI Academy associated with the University of Virginia, and Centrex Branshill Police College in the UK. Mr. Philbert joined the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service on February the 21st, 1964. He worked his way up the ranks to an investigator in the Robbery Squad, the Homicide Bureau and Intelligence Unit, apart from several other elite units at the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. In 1985, Mr. Philbert was promoted to the rank of Inspector. In 1993, Assistant Superintendent. 1997, Superintendent and Senior Superintendent in 2001. By 2003, Mr. Philbert was appointed to the rank of Assistant Commissioner of Police, followed by Commissioner of Police from 2008 to 2010. Mr. Philbert has served on several committees. 2016, member of the Joint Select Committee on Border Protection and Security under the Ministry of National Security. 2021, Deputy Chairman, Trinidad and Tobago Airport Authority. 2022, Board Member of the Gambling, Gaming and Betting Control. In furtherance, Mr. Philbert has proven to be an analytical, detail-oriented attorney with extensive experience in the areas of national security, management, criminology, regional narcotics, investigations, executive criminal intelligence, investigations, detection of transnational organized crimes, border patrol and marine interdiction, and project management. Welcome, Mr. Philbert, and thank you for joining me this evening. How are you?
I'm fine. Good evening, Wendy, and let me say good evening to your viewing public and all those on social media. Let me also say good evening to my wife and daughter, who I believe might be viewing and, and giving me courage to be here. Thank you very much.
You're more than welcome. Mr. Philbert, we're going to get right into the meat of the matter. Trinidad and Tobago is in a permanent state of mourning. I know that everyday souls are passing away. However, the nation is in the hands of criminals, vagabonds, villains, and lawbreakers. You were the former Commissioner of Police during the period 2007 to 2010 and removed from office as a result of the 2010 elections. Looking at Trinidad and Tobago in its current state, how do you feel and what do you believe to be some of the root causes?
Let me first say that I don't believe that Trinidad and Tobago is in the hands of criminals. I believe that Trinidad and Tobago is in the hands of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. I have a lot of confidence in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. It's a wonderful institution. I spent 43 years there, and there is wonderful opportunity for the police service to improve itself and deal with whatever situations are before them. I have seen situations similar to this, and I've seen the police service rise to the occasion. Yes, we are mourning. I would admit that there is too much bloodletting.
Yes.
I would think that the police service, and I hear the conversation always, they have already identified who is responsible for this. And I want to congratulate the police service, first of all. In recent times, and even today, I have seen that a whole different scenario is changing. They're actually engaging the vagabonds and the criminals and the gang members, and I want to congratulate them for, first of all, that incident that I saw took place with the commandeering of the manager of the Massey store in South. I am very pleased with the way they endured to the end to get the last person, and that's what I know about policing. I commended them in a chat group, and I thought they did well. And then I want to congratulate them for the solving of the murder, at least charging someone for the death of that 6-year-old. That grieved me. And I saw today something that the police need to do. Not being flat-footed, but finding a variety of ways to engage these criminals. They are about us, they live, they have families, they have business, they act like us, and the fear of God must be put into them so that we can see solutions and push them back. I think they have taken too much of our space. Whilst I don't agree that we are in a state of siege, the last time I saw that word, it was in 1990. And I am thinking that the police will overcome this situation if they continue the way they have recently started dealing with these issues. And we shall see better results and more positive results to change these, the kind of criminal conduct and behavior that we are seeing in our society.
Fair enough. It's a lot to fix, Mr. Philbert.
It is.
Some will argue that crime is not a political issue, but is rooted in societal behaviors,
it is.
Cultures, mindsets, and generational styles of living. How can we change the course? The seas are rough. And
there are a number of things that have happened over the years. I remember when I joined the police service, and let me just make one correction. I joined the police service in July of 1967, not 64. It was the 3rd of July, 1967. Spent a few months out of school and joined the police service. And I've seen some descriptions of situations that I lived in. I was once a young, unemployed person. And let me see, I hear talk about single parent. My mother was a single parent with 10 children. I was number 9. And by virtue of how she managed us, there was no idea that you were going to engage in criminal conduct at all. As a matter of fact, at my age, I still hear my mother speaking to me and reminding me of certain things. And I have always said that, young people in good family life would be promising people. I can't think otherwise. And I have seen where one of the most difficult things a police officer would have to deal with is a young person involved in crime. There's so much care that you have to pay, amount of attention you have to pay to that person, other than thinking that you're going to lock them up and put them away. This is a young person who you will find has been probably abused, probably neglected, not properly taught, not properly mentored or cared for perhaps no proper parenting, and they fall into crime. And they, you view them as a victim. And so I understand how difficult it is, and in recent times we have seen a number of bits of legislation to protect young people, even when they come into the space of law enforcement, and that is right. But I go back to the fact that we have lost parenting a long time ago. The police would have their part to play, and they have to be very careful. But it starts with a community issue where family life has been broken down, and it has continued to where we are, to the point that some people seem to do nothing else but criminal behavior. I can tell you that when I came to Port of Spain for the first time when I joined the police service in 1967, and I spent times in the police training college, we used to call it the barracks. I interacted with people from Port of Spain, and I found their culture to be quite different to what existed in the country. And I remember having a conversation with one of the guys who lived somewhere in Belmont, and he was telling me about somebody break open somebody's house. And that was a strange thing to me. Very strange. I said, "What do you mean they break open the house?" He said, "Yes." I said, "But we go out and we leave the house open sometime for the weekend and tell the neighbor we're not home and to look after it. And when we come back, we probably get a report that the neighbor borrowed some salt." That was a common thing. And then I came to Port of Spain to work in the Homicide Bureau from South in 1989, and I found the murders, the witnesses or the people who saw what happened behave quite different to what happened in the country areas. At that time, we were still having people volunteering as witnesses, and I would dare say that this witness protection program developed from the Homicide Bureau then, and then it was institutionalized and legislated.
Right.
So we were able to take people in those days to our homes for the weekend and find friends to keep them. Sometimes encourage them to go up the islands to people who we know and remain there safely and so on. We did have people coming as witnesses, and that has changed. And for obvious reasons, it has changed. Criminals have found out that if you get rid of a witness, your chances of success are very, very likely. And so there is a lot of concern about that. I've heard people complaining about that. But in the meantime, we found it necessary to introduce something that did not exist in the police service, and that was an intelligence unit. When I went to the UK, to that Centrex college, that was my bit of study and research that I did, even at their headquarters. And I came back and we installed that into the police service. The reason for that was, and I don't know where it is now, at what stage it is, or if it exists. The reason for that was to deal with exactly what I'm speaking about. Now, since we had lost the communal aspect of life, we were looking at more scientific stuff, DNA, and looking at an intelligence to guide us into investigating these murders. And I tell you that we had great success. When we did that, we had partnered with another unit, which name of which I don't wish to mention now. And we worked together using technology that had come to us, where we would take advantage of certain installations, and we brought good results. We found very good results. We were able to infiltrate the gangs and their activities and deal with them. So that my position is that if the police service properly apply what they have, including their own human resources development, we are going to get the results we want. This is not a job for the faint-hearted. My experience tells me it takes a lot of time. There's a lot of investment for people to be in it. You don't leave it alone. You don't reach halfway and turn back. Because I described criminals one time as being versatile and other things like that, and somebody didn't agree with me. But I am saying that to succeed in what they are doing, they are that way. They do everything possible to succeed, and they are testing us. And therefore, we need to rise to the occasion by virtue of employing our police officers and other members in the law enforcement community to treat with these issues.
Okay. During your tenure, you would have been rolling out your strategic intent. What were some of the initiatives you left on the table, and have any of those been implemented to date as far as you are aware?
Well, let me say that very said unit, that intelligence that was so important to us, is one of the things I stressed on. And we had it was properly organized with the support of the government then. It was funded, it was well organized, and we we treated it in special ways that I can't speak now, and we found excellent results. I can tell you that we impressed MI6, we impressed the GA. They were more than surprised in the breakthroughs we had. We got interdiction of people in Miami. We took them to Miami and have them charged. They made the jail terms. We broke up some serious drug operations. I don't know if, I'm seeing some things happening, but I don't know if that is still being implemented. I have seen some of the people who have been transferred to other areas after I left. I know that the particular unit itself was graded down, but I suspect that there is intelligence still being, it has to be, still being used, because I hear the term all the time, intelligence-led. And I want to think that I left is still there and being developed.
That's good.
Okay, the other thing was that we had directly engaged these gangs and these drug dealers. It was a way of treating with the issue, because that's where most of your problems come from. You have to get in their face, and we did that. And we dismantled a number of those operations and things that people use to elevate their activity. So every time I hear about a gang activity and there is some man leading some young people into nowhere, I think that he needs to be paid attention to, so that you can stop it and try to speak to these young guys to have them move away. We had succeeded in a number of those. Move away and go in the opposite direction of doing good.
Up until news at noon, we were at 26 murders in 17 days. In preparing for this discussion, I would have done some research, because I think if you want to address these elements, you have to sort of understand how they think, how they feel, how they move. And one of the things that I notice is they are doing a lot of researching, they're strategizing, they're collaborating. And one of the things I want to say to everybody who's locked on and tuned in is, not all the thefts and break-ins are planned on a street corner or have any strategic intent. They're looking online, and they're looking at those people who like to post everywhere they go, and they like to post all their material stuff, and they target them. So, as we mentioned before, it's not a political issue. Society has a role to play.
Yes.
What are your views?
Well, of course, one of the things that you would want to do is harden your targets. I have, in recent times, I've seen people behave as if nothing is happening. They're not aware. And I've heard the police a number of times in different programs informing people, the population, informing them on methods by which they should keep themselves safe. And people take chances all the time. This is especially, I'm concerned because this carnival season is one of those times always when people become careless. I don't know what emboldens them, where they park their cars. You see women especially walking by themselves in not too lit areas. What members of the society ought not to do is to provide opportunities for criminals.
Yes.
And of course, I agree with you, they plan, and they plan on the vulnerable. So I've seen too that in recent times, they drive around and they look for opportunities of people who perhaps just open the gate or just closing the gate, or people who press the automatic gate is pressed. They drive off and leave it half open because they believe it should open. I tell you, my wife is one of those persons who say sign up right until the gate closes.
Right.
It's closing, and I wait, and you fret a little bit, but she's right. You make sure that your gate is closed. Create a challenge for people. Don't leave the gate open and you're inside doing something. You're looking for the keys. You can't find the keys and the gate is open, or you leave your doors open. They strategize it very well. They're on social media. They're on social media and they pick up your information and they treat with it. And
yes.
I have seen people expose all their business on social media. They say where they are and what they have, and you can look at them and perhaps see that they are wearing certain kinds of jewelry, or they say things that encourage criminals to look for them and go after them. So I just had a conversation with a young friend whose sister told me to speak to her. As I sat here, she called me to apologize because I heard that somebody approached her to get a visa for her. She has no passport. And I called her to tell her, don't do it. And she told me she believed the person. And she called me a while ago and told me she was sorry because she gave that person a large sum of money, and she now found out that what I told her was true. So you have people who don't believe that they are going to be outsmarted. There are people who are told that they've won money in Nigeria. They have never been to Nigeria. And they are encouraged to invest money or pay money into some bank account. I don't know if you win money, why you have to give money to get it.
Exactly.
And I've heard a number of times the police try to deter people from that. And when the situation comes up, they believe that money is theirs, and they still get into it, and they find themselves in trouble. So there is some challenge in terms of people understanding that they put themselves in danger a lot of times. This incident today that I heard about, where the police engaged some people who advertise cars for sale, this has been going on for a long time. And there have been a lot of victims, and it has been spoken about on the media. The police have said that to people. People know that, and they still continue to try to capture what they call a good deal. I am happy how the police dealt with it. I'm not happy that people have died. But that's the way you deal with this, and not stand by and wait for people to make reports and another report and another report. There are people out there doing these things, and of course, if they're armed, you deal with them as they are.
Understood. Mr. Philbert, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Okay.
To a close. We get ready to close one chapter in our experience and prepare ourselves to surmount the challenges of an unknown future. This year, we cherish the return to some semblance of normalcy in our lives as the restrictions of the COVID-19 pandemic were gradually lifted. Today, we once again have the opportunity to join family and friends who are so close, yet we were constrained to love them from a distance. From my unique vantage point as Acting Commissioner of Police, I can report that 2022 was another challenging year for the TTPS, yet we were steadfast in executing our mandate of confronting crime and working relentlessly to ensure the safety and security for all. The full capability and capacity of the TTPS as a law enforcement agency was tested, and the organization maintained its focus and its determination to deter and detect crime and to apprehend offenders. How did we manage those demands? Having an appreciation of the reality and the complexity of our current security environment and the global challenges impacting crime generally, we worked diligently to operationalize our strategic plan 2022 to 2024, which was a roadmap for all our officers in the discharge of their responsibilities. As the dynamics of crime changed, we too, as an organization, had to rapidly adapt our approach in order to be proactive and effective in our fight against crime. We remained resilient and focused, and to a significant extent succeeded in our efforts to keep our communities and citizens safe. We are all too familiar with the term going over and beyond the call of duty. Such were the demands placed on the rank and file of the organization. And I am pleased to report that the officers certainly rose to the occasion, despite the many challenges. And for this, I wish to publicly acknowledge the contribution and the dedication and commitment of the officers and to thank them for their service to the nation. As we come to the end of the year, the realistic outlook for the TTPS is another challenging year of operations. While commentators will press reset and begin a new count come January 1st, there is the need for an acknowledgement that there is nothing magical in fighting crime.
Good evening and welcome back. If you are now joining us, you are joining a panel discussion, and we have security experts and law enforcement experts on the panel. I am currently speaking with former Commissioner of Police and Attorney at Law, Mr. James Philbert. Mr. Philbert, we are back with a couple questions, and then we want to go to the Facebook Live. They're overloading with questions for you.
I hope I can answer it.
In your professional opinion, do you believe we are doing enough to secure our borders?
I would say, I would say no. And I would say so because I think we're disappointed, and that's what I would add. I'm disappointed in agencies that are expected to play a part and do not play that part.
Right.
And when I say so, I point to areas like perhaps the customs, where in recent times we are seeing that, and I remember Mr. Jacob speaking about it boldly, that while we were looking on the outside, on the edges of the coast and so on, those areas, things were happening in front of our faces. And we have seen barrels of guns coming into Trinidad, sophisticated weapons. Wow. And that's my disappointment. I a well-oiled and well-organized organization that understands this mandate ought not to allow things like that to happen.
Agreed.
So you know, as a police officer, when I was a police officer, I would think that I could turn my back on the customs and understand that they are doing the best, and I'm looking elsewhere. Now, if that is not so, your focus is diverted, and questions come up, and no, you're not sure where you're going. So in that regard, I think that things like that should not happen at all, and that's a serious compromise.
Agreed. As an attorney, what are some of the challenges being faced in the legal system as it relates to solving matters in a timely fashion?
You mean, you mean court matters?
Yes.
A number of things that prevent matters from coming to conclusion. Of course, I remember in my time as a police officer, and I will start with that, we were managed in terms of the time that we would submit a file, take a statement, interview people. There was no escape. It was rigid. And so you had, let's say, the first 7 days to produce something of a skeletal nature. And by 14 days towards the end of the month, you ought to provide your file and prepare yourself for court. And then you would be coached by senior officers, lectured to by other officers in terms of what this matter is. As a matter of fact, I want to go beyond that. I am seeing on social media, people are complaining about making reports, not getting receipts. Now, when I was in office, and that's one of the things that I instituted, the question of people complaining that they made a report and we couldn't find it, which to me is something like is a serious issue. You go to the diary and you're not seeing the report. So what we did, we got an agency to prepare these receipts for us. And I still hear that people say they went and they make a report and they didn't have any receipts. And I think that shouldn't happen. All those things head into where the justice system is, because those are things that you want to feed into the justice system. And they are not, you as a citizen, a customer, you think that your matter is headed in the right direction and perhaps it isn't started at all. So in terms of managing those things, I would like to see the police service pay more attention to those things. I've seen a whole list of issues come up on social media about last week where people are not informed as to the progress of the report, and when they go back they can't find this one and they tell them come back, and it goes on and on and on and on and on and on. Things have changed in the sense that when I was a young police officer, the inquiries were shared. If someone came to the station and it wasn't your investigation, you were encouraged to take that statement for the person who comes. It's always customer satisfaction. If you tell them come back, this is not something to come back. There's an urgent need to pursue reports of crime. Come back next week when John is going to be here is not something that I think people like to hear, and I think that needs to be fixed.
Agreed.
Right. And then we go into the court where the matters are in the court, and there is some complete, there have always been errant police officers who didn't want to come to court, but they were dealt with. I recall that I had a matter once, and I didn't miss the date. I went to court, and there was some strange thing that happened with the victim. It was her husband who was the defendant, and she didn't want to come to court, and the matter was dismissed. And I was put on a charge to explain what happened. I mean, I overcame it, but that was the order of how things were dealt with. Now, when you come to court with a matter, it is sometimes on both sides. Sometimes the attorneys are diverted because they have too many matters, and sometimes the police themselves are not ready and they seek adjournments. I would think that if the police, in matters where the police are concerned, if the police do their business and they put everything as it ought to be, they follow the orders of the court and they do everything as it ought to be. The other side, if they don't, they are disadvantaged, and therefore we should proceed to clear the desk, because the person who has been injured or violated wants justice. And justice delayed is justice denied. You know, so I think I want to look first at the police service and to say that they should have everything in order. You ought not to be going to court with a matter that is 4 years old, and you hear somebody saying that I don't have the file and things like that. There are methods set to treat with those things, and if the police service has to get it right, there are disciplinary procedures set there to make it right. So I would want to, first target the police service to ensure that the right thing is done, so that they rise to that occasion and have things ready.
Agreed.
And if that is so, then things are in the hands of the judge or the magistrate. So the defendant and his attorney ought to do better to reach where those things are and treat with the matters.
At a recent seminar at the University of the West Indies, Justice Gillian Lucky asked a pertinent question. Is justice elusive?
You know, let me tell you, my belief is that every single crime could be solved. I honestly believe so.
Right.
And I have tested that and found it to be correct in my service. I have challenged the most difficult investigations and brought fruit out of it and showed people what they should do and bore fruit as well, and some of them were astonished. Justice is elusive. And there's a statement that has been made where evil will persist if just men stand by and do nothing. That is what makes those things elusive. And if we don't look after our own selves too. I mean, if you they say that if your neighbor house is on fire, you should wet yours. If you have a community that sits by, and I've heard people argue that whether the members of the community have a duty to help the police. Well, is the members of the community who put the police there? They pay the police, and if you don't help them, you will find justice elusive.
Right.
Of course, justice will be elusive. I don't think I want to answer the question to the learned judge. I know her well, and she has asked a very relative question, and I don't think it's elusive. I think by virtue of what we do and not do, justice is denied. Justice is denied, and there are a number of things that cause that. If we neglect what we do, if we turn a blind eye, if we encourage it, you see, if we harbor it, that is what will happen. But I don't think, in a general sense, that I could answer the question for her, and we can discuss it more. I do not think that justice is elusive. I think we have a judiciary that is standing by to do work. I think that we have a lot of intelligent people. Sometimes I hear the argument that doesn't say that people understand what all of this means. But we are going to succeed here. And I ask people the question, if you're on a boat and you see somebody cutting a hole in the boat in the middle of the night, and you are way out in the ocean, is it that you go to your bunker and close and pull the blanket over your head and don't say anything? Well, I don't know you want to wake up at all. It's the same thing we are in. And these things continue to happen because a lot of members of the society decide, well, I ain't saying nothing. I'm not saying anything. And there are a lot of reasons they say they don't want to say. And as we say that, some of them may be justified in terms of saying that they don't trust the police. So the police have a lot of work to do.
Yes.
To lift their relations with the public. And it's not difficult. I can tell you I have had, in my own way, as a citizen, just probably a year or two ago, a very, very obnoxious adventure where I was a victim of larceny, and
You were a victim of larceny?
Yeah. There were two things that happened. I dealt with one, and the second one I had to wait on the police, and the outcome of that was horrible. It was horrible, not that I never understood that there are people in the organization who will do evil things or wrong things. But this is a time when you want to fix that. And I think the managers, the supervisors, the senior officers need to pay a lot of attention to reports that come to the police stations and come to the police attention that the right thing is done, and not perhaps let officers, young officers especially, do as they please with it. It needs to be managed. I know that's how I knew it happening. So yeah. I understand very well what when people don't get that kind of service, how they feel, and then that's the same person you are trying to encourage to tell you what they see. I can tell you that some of the crimes that we solved in the past was solved because people believed in us. And one of them was the whole question of the Dolce gang. People trusted us. And we hung, how much pen we hung? 9 people we hung? Friday, Saturday, and Monday. I was at the FBI Academy when the hanging took place, and I had to explain why it was done, and they applauded us.
Wow.
They applauded us. But the question is, in those situations, people trusted us, and we did not let them down, and we got good results.
Thank you so much. Let's take some questions that they're buzzing online. Do you think there should be more emphasis on training for officers given the changing dynamics of crime?
Yes. The answer is yes. Let me tell you. And that's a lovely question. The dynamics are changing. You need to intensify your training. Police officers need to be better trained to treat with these issues. That's what it is. They need to be better investigators. They need to know, to understand people's grief, how people feel.
Empathy.
Yes. Emotional intelligence. That's what we need. That you want skills.
Correct.
That's a yes.
Someone is saying, thank you very much for your response thus far. Looking forward to see some of these things being addressed. And we have...
I can't do it, eh?
Well, this is it.
I could only talk it.
Given the opportunity, are you prepared to serve again?
I would have to ask my wife that question. Let me tell you. And I tell people, and people who know me in the service would watch that, I didn't spend 43 years standing still. I gave my every all to the police service. It was night and day and different. There were times, I can tell you, I was working in Port of Spain. And I remember on 2 occasions, and my wife would probably, she knows that, so I can say, she would provide me with lunch every day to go to work. And I spent the whole day working, and it was 2 o'clock in the morning going back home, and I remember saying, I didn't eat my lunch. And I park up on the road by Grand Bazaar and eat my food, because I can't go back home with that. And my young daughter, who is now, she's an adult now, I didn't engage with her as I felt I should. We had our relationship. And it was because I was always there, leading the bunch, especially in those homicides that we dealt with. They were not as many as they were then. And it was a pleasure teaching them and guiding them in the ways that they need to follow to solve these crimes. I spent a lot of time so that to say now that I will serve again, I don't have the luxury of youth. And there are certain things I promised to do, and if I go there, I would not get it. But I am very, very interested in any form of assistance that I can give to bring this thing to where it should be.
Another question. Under the former Minister of National Security, Major General Edmund Dillon, you were appointed as an advisor to design an appropriate framework for the then proposed Border Protection Unit.
Yes.
Any idea if this was completed and or implemented?
It was completed. I think they have implemented some parts of it because I was called on no less than about 3 occasions and asked about it. But I know that it was completed. It was reviewed by someone in the Defense Force. I remember that. So perhaps they are implemented certain parts of it. Of course, I wouldn't know because I'm not affiliated in that way. But I suspect that they are because we spent a lot of time. There were about 4 of us on it. It was retired customs officer Mr. John, former immigration officer Mr. I forget his name, a good friend of mine, and Mr. Moore from the Air Guard, who since passed. God bless his soul. So yeah. We spent a lot of time on it. We interviewed a lot of people, and we did make some good recommendations.
Awesome. Someone is asking, as it relates to the training you would have just described in your answer, are you prepared to facilitate?
Yes. I think it would be disappointing of me to go to the grave with what I have in my head. And when I speak about community helping, I am part of the community. And if I'm given the opportunity, I would do that. I would do it. I've had the opportunity to do bits of it. not too long ago, a number of us past officers who I saw them described as finest. I was included in that. I'm proud. We went to the police training college and spent an entire week under the, I think the arrangement was made by the police retirees, right. The president of whom is somebody who is also an excellent investigator, Mr. And so we spent a whole week there, and we had interactions with the commissioner, the former commissioners, myself, Mr. Snagg, Mr. Williams, and Mr. Paul. We spoke with the commissioner on issues, right. Mr. Jacob on issues, and yes, and I saw the light in a lot of officers' eyes when we told them certain things, and I think it's a good idea. And I want to tell you, I don't know why senior experienced officers in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service are not given the opportunity to pass on that knowledge, because let me tell you, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of grit, it takes a lot of enthusiasm and sacrifice to build that kind of competence, and then you retire.
Yes, with the experience.
You retire with it. When I went to the FBI Academy in Virginia, the persons who taught us were retired FBI officers.
Okay.
The persons who lectured us were there. When I went to Centrex, same thing. When I went to Canada, same thing. The senior officers with all the experience are the ones who lecture to you and teach you. And we have a whole number of senior officers who are retired with elite skills, if I may say so, who are home and who could be asked to add richness to the training aspect of the police service.
Someone is saying, according to the public, there is a lot of gaslighting and a lot of things that happen at the TTPS. We do not hear about it. Is there a communication issue?
Well, I don't. What is gaslighting in that regard?
Well, that's the thing.
Because if I want to answer, I want to know what they're speaking about. Now, of course, there are a number of things happening in the police service now that I wouldn't know. But if they tell me what is gaslighting, I don't want to guess that. I may be able to answer. Right. But it seems that that person is well intended to find something out, and I would like to help.
So please stretch your question a bit so that Mr. Philbert can answer your question. A little bit of enlightenment on your gaslighting question. They are saying that a lot of things take too long to implement. Too many people are in the prison system and they haven't even been found guilty. Too many people are on remand and nothing is being done. The country is frustrated.
Okay. If that is true, then the police service is working. So the police service, they are bringing people to justice. And that's what they need to do. I don't know that they can be responsible for the people being in the jail too long, but I've heard that being addressed in recent times. The judiciary, those who are responsible for ensuring that trials come up, that's where it is. But the police, if the jail is full, I don't know that you want to say the police not working at all, because those people didn't walk in there. They were carried there by the police, and most likely they were charged on evidence and taken there. And that's where the police will take them.
The person is now, well, they're typing away. So this next part is that a lot of people stay too long in remand. Their cases aren't being called.
Well, yes, I just answered that.
Yes. This person, I think they just joined about 10 minutes ago.
Right. Same situation. The police are solving the crimes, and they are bringing criminals to justice. And then we need to have they have done some implementations to make things faster, but perhaps the police are too quick and too are overcoming the system and what they're doing. But I think on the other side, we need to have these things done. I mean, I have known that some people who I have defended people who were found not guilty and who, in fact, we found did not commit the crime. We have gotten results in the High Court, malicious prosecutions. Yeah, we have had that. And for that alone, we should have a quicker justice turnover.
Yes.
trial should be quicker. Yeah.
At this point in time, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we will be engaging Mr. David West. And I want to encourage you all to please keep the questions coming. Keep them short, keep them brief, keep them respectful. We'll be right back.
As the year 2022 draws to a close, we get ready to close one chapter in our experience and prepare ourselves to surmount the challenges of an unknown future. This year, we cherish the return to some semblance of normalcy in our lives as the restrictions of the COVID-19 pandemic were gradually lifted. Today, we once again have the opportunity to join family and friends who are so close, yet we were constrained to love them from a distance. From my unique vantage point as Acting Commissioner of Police, I can report that 2022 was another challenging year for the TTPS, yet we were steadfast in executing our mandate of confronting crime and working relentlessly to ensure the safety and security for all. The full capability and capacity of the TTPS as a law enforcement agency was tested, and the organization maintained its focus and its determination to deter and detect crime and to apprehend offenders. How did we manage those demands? Having an appreciation of the reality and the complexity of our current security environment and the global challenges impacting crime generally, we worked diligently to operationalize our strategic plan 2022 to 2024, which was a roadmap for all our officers in the discharge of their responsibilities. As the dynamics of crime changed, we too, as an organization, had to rapidly adapt our approach in order to be proactive and effective in our fight against crime. We remained resilient and focused, and to a significant extent succeeded in our efforts to keep our communities and citizens safe. We are all too familiar with the term going over and beyond the call of duty. Such were the demands placed on the rank and file of the organization. And I am pleased to report that the officers certainly rose to the occasion, despite the many challenges. And for this, I wish to publicly acknowledge the contribution and the dedication and commitment of the officers and to thank them for their service to the nation. As we come to the end of the year, the realistic outlook for the TTPS is another challenging year of operations. While commentators will press reset and begin a new count come January 1st, there is the need for an acknowledgement that there is nothing magical in fighting crime.
Welcome back. Let's introduce my next guest, Director of the Police Complaints Authority, Mr. David West. Mr. David West is an attorney at law with over 25 years' experience in a combination of criminal law, money laundering, financial crimes, extradition, and mutual legal assistance. After graduating from the Hugh Wooding Law School in 1996, Mr. West was a prosecutor at the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions for 3 years until 1999, when he began working at the Central Authority Unit at the Ministry of the Attorney General. This is where he was appointed as the head of the Central Authority Unit. From 2008 to 2014, Mr. West continued to pursue his career as an attorney at law at his private practice at El Dorado Law Chambers, at which Ms. Dana Sitahal, senior counsel, now deceased, was the head of chambers. During the period March 2010 until September 12, 2010, Mr. West was the director designate of the Financial Intelligence Unit of Trinidad and Tobago. In 2011, Mr. West earned the Certified Anti-Money Laundering Specialist CAMS designation, and thereafter, in 2015, he was awarded the designation of Certified Financial Crime Specialist. Mr. West has also shared his wealth of experience by delivering presentations on money laundering and financial crimes at numerous conferences, both locally and internationally, including the Caribbean Regional Compliance Association, of which he is a member. Mr. West was appointed as the Director of the Police Complaints Authority of Trinidad and Tobago on November 7, 2014. In March 2016, under David West's leadership, the Police Complaints Authority hosted a 3-day conference entitled Challenges and Benefits of Oversight Bodies and Civilian Oversight Institutes, which culminated in the signing of the Caribbean Association for the Oversight of Law Enforcement Agreement by Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, and Jamaica, which governs the sharing of information among the respective oversight bodies in these particular jurisdictions. In his commitment to his mandate as the Director of the Police Complaints Authority, Mr. West continuously delivers presentations and training to various units of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service and the recruits from the Police Service Academy. Mr. West, good evening and welcome.
Good evening to you, and good evening to your listeners and viewers.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Wonderful. Well, you're in the hot seat. Firstly, please share the role and function of the Police Complaints Authority.
Sure. The role and function of the Police Complaints Authority. We are a statutory body governed by the Police Complaints Authority Act 2006 as amended. The function of the authority is the remit covers police officers dealing with criminal matters, serious police discipline, and police corruption. We have several powers which we can look into, and we can request documents, we can request files, and in certain circumstances, we can we do investigations, we take statements, and we do investigate criminal police officers involved in criminal matters.
Awesome. What is the process to make a complaint?
Sure. Well, the simple process is you can write into the Police Complaints Authority at the PCA in Port of Spain, and we have an office in Tobago in Bacalet Street. But what we have done now is we have become more social media friendly, and we have an app where you can download our app at www.pca.org.tt, and you can email us in at that address. You can download our app on the Android or the iOS platforms. And with the app, you can make a statement. There are different views. You can attach a file. You can take a picture of something going on. You can take a voice recording and send it to the PCA, and we will get that, and then we will turn that into a complaint. You can also go to our website, www.pca.org.tt, and you can also make a complaint via the complaint system.
Wonderful. What is your take on the crime situation in Trinidad and Tobago currently?
Well, unfortunately, it's not what we hope it would be. It is, it's too high, and I know the police service will get it together and they will address this situation. I have all confidence in the police service to do that.
From October the 1st, 2022, the PCA has received 278 reports, 160 of which have been assessed as matters for investigation. What's the average duration of an individual assessment?
Well, of course, that depends on the matter. We have, we investigate, of course, police-involved shootings, assaults. That's on the criminal side. Of course, on the disciplinary side, we investigate also other disciplinary matters, discreditable conduct, neglect of duty. So it all depends on the complexity of the matter. So I can't give you a certain time.
Yes.
Of course, also too, we depend on third parties for information. We depend on the Forensic Science Center to produce autopsy reports. We depend on the medical health institutions. So, for example, when somebody comes in for a shooting or an alleged assault, they are attended to by the doctor, and we have to determine whether or not the medical report is justifies in what they're saying. So, it's quite a complex investigation. It's not straightforward.
It takes time.
It takes time, yes.
And I'm glad you explained it in such detail, because people are always wondering, why are they taking so long? Why are they taking so long? When they now understand that it's not just a one-man show. There are a lot of arms involved, and you have to wait for information before you conclude your assessments.
Exactly, and we have to write to people. We have to give them time to respond.
Yes.
Of course, sometimes they may not respond in time. Then you have to give them a little nudge, another letter, and then they respond. And then we have other investigations that may shoot out of what that first statement. So a statement may come in saying an assault, but when you look at the state, what was actually done, it could turn on to misbehavior in public office or neglect of duty. And so it could be a variety of different issues.
Awesome. Members of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service have been accused, in some instances found guilty, of exactly what you just described: misbehavior in public office, abuse of power, being perpetrators as it relates to gender-based violence. What can you attribute to these behavioral patterns, given that we are being told extensive background checks and assessments take place before they are recruited?
I would have to say, I think, the police officers in the academy are given a course in the academy. I think it's 6 months of training session.
Do you think it's ample?
Well, you see, it depends on every individual learns differently. Okay, every individual takes time to assess what has to be done. I know at the end of the 6 months, they give an exam, and if they pass the exam, their recruits are turned out and they become members of the TTPS.
Yes.
What I'm not sure about is what is the continuous assessment and the continuous training.
Right.
Now, I know that you spoke earlier about the training of police officers with Mr. Philbert. And I know that the international agencies, the U.S. Embassy, the Canadian Embassy, the British High Commission, to name a few, do give training to and assistance to the police officers, the TTPS. And experts come down, and we have been invited, the PCA have been invited to some of the training that's taken place. So I believe that continuous training is very important. And I think you must have a method of those officers you are training to weed out the bad officers. So, for example, if an officer has a complaint against them, we should be notified that we want to train. The TTPS says, okay, we have a training session on corruption. We have 25 officers. Here's the list. Please vet the list and let me know if any officers have been involved in any matters that have come before you. And we can do that and say yes or no. And then if it's a no, well, then everybody goes through. If it's a few names, well, they just get pulled to the side until their name or the matter is finished with, and they have been either found, well, not either a recommendation was made or a recommendation was not made, and the matter was closed for insufficient evidence.
Understood. Are there any initiatives from the PCA to reach those in at-risk areas who may be afraid to come forward?
Well, first of all, the Act deals with matter of confidentiality. So any complaint made to the PCA is confidential. You can make your report anonymously via our app, okay, or via the website. So we have that method. And I think, for the PCA, COVID really was a good thing, because what we did is we used to do outreach in person. Now our outreach are mainly on Zoom platforms, where we get our attendance has increased, because what was happening, because people find it easier to sit home and listen to a meeting. In the comfort
of their homes, yes.
Instead of going out to wherever we are. So it has benefited us, and we have become so social savvy and media and on internet savvy that we are getting a lot more. Most of our complaints now come via the app and come via the website at info@pca.org.tt. You see, so we are more in touch with the public, and their realizing the benefit that they have. So they don't need to come in until their complaint is assessed. And once it's assessed that it's within remit, then they come in and give a statement. Or they can even email in a statement, and they can liaise with the investigator on the phone, and then only if we need to tighten up some areas, then they come in and do their statement properly.
The PCA is independent, and a lot of people don't think that it is. So there is some level, a lack of trust. And one of the questions I have, any provisions for the elderly and or disabled who may not be able to physically get to the station, but they're not computer literate either?
Well, we also go to you. We can repeat, the investigators will go to anybody. You could write that, you could call us, or you can make or you can send in the complaint, and we will come to you.
Okay.
And we will take your statement. Now, I don't understand how you can say we're not independent. I am appointed by the president.
No, I am agreeing that you're independent.
I know, but I'm just commenting why people, I'm just letting you know how I am the director and deputy director are appointed. We are appointed by the president on the recommendation of the prime minister and leader of the opposition.
Of the opposition, yes.
Okay, so we are seen as, and we are totally independent of any political party. I can say without a shadow of a doubt that no political party has ever approached me and said, investigate this officer or investigate that officer or do this or do that. That has never happened, and that would never happen because I would not stand for that nonsense. Okay? So we are independent, and we take every complaint seriously, and we investigate every complaint that comes before us.
And that is applaudable. At this time, what are your thoughts going forward as it relates to the level of police officers that are being investigated?
Well, the PCA is just a small part of a wider criminal justice system. Okay? So an allegation is made, and we investigate it. So let me just let you and the public know how an investigation is done, so you understand that it's not that I myself cannot make a recommendation, or a deputy director. It's a process. Okay? It's a transparent process. So a complaint comes in, it goes to our complaints officer. They take the complaint. Right there and then, it is looked at by our legal department to see if it falls within remit. That is, whether it's a criminal offense, whether or not it's a disciplinary offense, or whether or not it's a police corruption matter. Once it's found to be within remit, it is assigned to an investigator. The investigator then takes that form and then, of course, calls the complainant and says, I need to take a further statement from you in more detail of what has transpired. And then the investigator takes that statement and then goes out and investigates and gets the autopsy report, if that's the case may be, the medical certificate, whatever. They then compile a file. That file is then sent across our legal department to make sure that the remit offence is identified. The evidence that he has gathered proves those remit offences.
Right.
Now, sometimes the legal department will say, no, you need to look further and try and get another piece of evidence or get X or Y. They come back and they do that. A report is then done by the legal department to the deputy director or myself. We then go through that report in detail to make sure that everything is covered.
Right.
And at the end of the day, we then make a recommendation to close the matter or for disciplinary proceedings.
Yes.
So therefore, it is a whole issue. So it is a process, a transparent, a detailed process that goes through from a complaint to a recommendation. And that is what we do, make recommendations.
We've seen a lot of the PCA's work over the past, I would say, coming out of the pandemic roughly about a year, 2022 into 2023, and a lot of police officers who have, been found guilty or otherwise, being brought to justice. And the public is pleased about that because I'm seeing all the comments. At the end of the day, one of the questions I'm getting here, and please feel free to the viewing and listening public, please feel free to continue posting your questions because Mr. West is here to answer your questions. One of the questions they're asking, you mentioned earlier, and I know exactly what they're referring to, the training that you facilitate. How can one get in contact with you for you to facilitate that type of training?
Yeah, sure. You could email me at west@pca.org.tt, or you can call the or you can email me at also at info@pca.org.tt, or the phone line at the Police Complaints Authority.
Awesome. And all this information is available online at the PCA's website.
Correct.
So the email address is dwest@pca.org.tt or info@pca.org.tt. Mr. West, we're going to take a break and we'll be right back.
Sure.
Welcome back. If you are now joining us, we are coming to the end of our panel discussion in defense of a nation under the siege. We are discussing crime. With me is Mr. David West, Director of the Police Complaints Authority. I want to invite you all to keep your questions coming. When we take the next break, we will have both Mr. Philbert and Mr. West on set to answer your one more question or two, and then we'll have closing comments and we'll be wrapping it up. Mr. West.
Yes.
You have served 2 tenures?
This is my second tenure.
This is your second tenure. What does the law say as it relates to... Can you serve a third?
Yes, I can. There's no limit.
You have no limit?
No limit.
Okay, that's one of the things there. What is your most important implementation thus far?
Well, I think it has to be the app.
The app.
The app has to be something I'm proud of. We also recently we have a records management unit. RMU unit, where where it's all digitized now. So where the investigator comes in with exhibits, it all goes to a unit where it's placed, is uploaded to the file, and we have we have a whole computer system where everybody has access to their files. So I can look at a file and see exactly where this investigator has reached and what else is needed. So it's all computerized, and that I think is one of my better.
And I like the
projects.
monitoring and evaluation segment of it.
Yes.
I am going to download this app and go through this app entirely.
And the app has our annual reports, our financial statements. It has everything you could want to know about the PCA.
This is good information to share with these schools.
Yes.
For students to become. What is the PCA's view on body-worn cameras and the TTPS?
Well,
Rachel Singh.
100% in favor of the body-worn cameras. Even before Justice Lucky, she was the one who first was pushing that, I must say. And I have asked all the commissioners since to do it, and they have been doing it, but somehow the body-worn cameras have not taken full effect as they should. The body-worn camera is a vital tool in protecting the police officer. Okay, so if somebody makes a false allegation against them, they would have it recorded of what actually transpired.
Yes.
So there was at the beginning some hesitance on the police service to implement the body-worn cameras, but I think now they realize it is vitally important for them to record what transpired. And I think Mr. Jacob is in favor of the body-worn camera.
So based on your assessment of things, it's 100%?
Yes, definitely. There's no two ways about it.
But has it been implemented across the board?
No, it hasn't. It's been implemented piecemeal Some units have body-worn cameras, but not enough. Body-worn. A matter of funding was the last thing that I was told. But they said a release was given, and that was on the board to get more funding and to get more cameras. So the police service is moving towards that, but it's a very slow process. But it will happen.
Wonderful. What we're going to do right now, we're going to take a next break because I want to invite Mr. Philbert back on set.
Sure, definitely.
And then we could do some closing. So we take a next break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. With me on set are the both experts for this evening's discussion, Mr. West, Director of the Police Complaints Authority, and former Commissioner of Police and Attorney at Law, Mr. James Philbert. It's good to have you both on set. This is a hot set now. Things just got a little bit different. We have questions, and the questions are coming in. I'm asking them to say who the questions are for, because I can kind of guess who some of the questions are for. Mr. Philbert, I'm very happy to learn about your many achievements. Congrats. This is from Trevor Farrell, Sr. I recently learned that police recruits are no longer required to be housed at the barracks during their training. In your opinion, how has this affected the overall performance of the graduates over the years?
Okay, in my time, we were housed. And there was restrictions in terms of your time out. So I think there were times in the week when you get a night pass. And then there were alternate weekends off. What I found that did for us, there was more camaraderie. It also taught you that the job was one that created restrictions, that you had to expect that there are times when you would not be able to go out as you wanted to. I don't know what study has been done to change it. I don't know what effect it has now. I really don't. But I can tell you that what it did for me and others who experienced that kind of training is that there was more camaraderie. There was an opportunity to learn more. We had more exposure to our senior officers, the persons who trained us.
Yes.
And all of that. So, but I don't know what effect and why they would have done that now. So I can't say.
This person is saying question for both gentlemen. So we start with you, Mr. West. Should TTPS officers be armed with tasers, in your opinion?
I think they need a secondary weapon. Besides the firearm, they need a secondary weapon to subdue persons coming towards them in an aggressive manner.
Yes.
Whether it's a taser or something else, I don't know. But I think that it's unfair, really and truly, for the police officer to only have a firearm to protect himself. Okay, when somebody, so much could happen so quickly.
Yes.
You know, so I think that they should have some secondary weapon, non-lethal weapon.
Non-lethal. Mr. Philbert.
I agree. It makes sense. I mean, I've been out there. I don't think we were experiencing as much violence then as now, but obviously I have seen people challenge the police in certain communities, and I see the police struggling with them, and people encouraging them to struggle with the police, and the police are armed to the teeth, and a taser, as I know it, would immediately solve those problems.
The tasers are highly recommended.
Yes, of course.
The answer to your question, Rachel Singh. In both your times, the entire village used to bring up a child. The village could have punished you if it cannot be done the correct way. How do we get back to that old-time mindset? Mr. West.
Honestly speaking, it happens in the home. A child is brought up in the home. I know, unfortunately, some children are brought up by single parents, but it still has to happen in the home. That single parent has to make the time to be there for the child, and the child has to understand the love that he or she will get from that single parent. So, in my view, I know it takes a village to raise a child, but it really starts at the home. The home is very important.
I agree with what you're saying, but a lot of times I hear people, separate powers based on single parenting. I was brought up by my mom at the age of 11. My parents were divorced, and I don't think I came out too badly. So I think one of the, and you guys can agree or disagree, one of the things that I noticed is back then, when you had a single parent, you had a single parent in the real context of the word parent, whether that's male or female. Now we have children making children, and well, according to dictionary, they are parents.
Well, again,
and I think that may be one of the root causes.
Again, that happens because the home. Again, that happens because the parent did not look after or did not.
Parent can't even be a parent.
Yeah, and did not, did not see what was happening, and did not pick up the signs.
Correct.
You see, so therefore, that's what I'm saying.
Lack of experience.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that parent has to be a parent.
Mr. Philbert, your take?
Yeah, I think what has happened is that we have lost what a parent is. Perhaps you have a mother and a father, but not a parent.
Correct.
And it kept slipping. It slipped. And so if I compare what my mother did with her 10 children as against what I see people do with 1 or 2 children, it's simply not so at all. I think a lot of them are, they're just not, they're not ready, and some of them are not committed.
Agreed.
They're not committed at all.
Question for you, Mr. Philbert. Is it against the law to film police officers during an incident?
No, I don't think it is. I have encouraged that. And as a matter of fact, I have chosen 2 scenarios. If a police officer in all his uniform dives into King's Wharf to save someone who's drunk, he would love people to film that, wouldn't he? His heroic activity and so on. In the same way, if you are doing something wrong, you should understand that you are going to be photographed. And I mean, this is like 12 years or more ago when I was in the service, people were using their cell phones, and officers were told that this is a measure of telling you to conduct yourself.
Yes.
People are going to photograph you. Why shouldn't people?
Actually, no.
Why shouldn't people do that? I think they should. And it is a measure to tell police officers to behave themselves.
Just to add on to that.
Sure.
We are actually doing a matter where an inspector of police was telling the civilian, "You cannot film me; it's against the law."
Seen that on film.
Yeah. And so I want to endorse what Mr. Philbert says. It's not against the law. Once you're not obstructing the officer in the execution of his duty, you can go ahead and film the incident. It's not a problem.
I see so many videos on social media with exactly what you just described.
Yeah.
And they are intimidated by the officers, so they comply. Final question for either panelist, well, for both. Do you believe the Police Service Academy is producing good police officers? I don't know what's going on with that question, but I think the answer is obviously yes. If not, how can the quality of police officers be improved? I would let you all answer that question.
Let me say something.
You can give your closing comments as well.
You know, the former president, Mr. Robinson, he made a statement that is repeated. I heard it repeated recently. Streams into rivers and rivers into the sea. It's a question of influence. So you have this nice stream coming out of the police training college. It goes into the river of policing, and there's an ocean of policing. If that river and that ocean is polluted, you will have what Mr. Robinson described. And I think, and Mr. West spoke about it. So you train people in the police training college, but that's not the end of it. They come out, and I can tell you in my time, I came out of the police training college. In those days, we spent 8 months, not 6, 8. And when you come out, they would designate you to a particular station. And when you go there, you would meet seasoned police officers who knew that they had to mentor you. Of course, there were some ones that would have their own way, and there was always that kind of police officer, you know. But the general thing is that when you came there, the sergeant at the station took you in as his own, because they had to report on you, and you had to conduct yourself in a certain way and show enthusiasm, you know, and dedication to the job, and they ensure that you did what you had to do. Those are the things that ought to happen. They ought to happen, because if that doesn't happen, what you're going to get is a very wayward police officer who nobody is saying anything about, and he will rise up into the organization and be what he is when he rises. And so therefore the police service is an organization that has the word discipline embedded in the system. And that's what you want. And it's also a question of integrity.
Correct.
That people do just what ought to be done in the interest of the police service. Now, I have always said that the police service has a soul. It's a living thing. It has a soul. And what it asks for, it must get to survive. But the police service says it wants men in good health, women and men in good health. It wants people of integrity. It wants people who are dedicated, people who are committed, people who understand the public needs. And you discard that and say, I'm picking my brother. You have done injustice to the soul of the police service, because your brother may not hold the attributes that the police service is asking for. And in the same vein, if you are a senior officer and junior officers are not doing the right thing, you need to do something about it so that it doesn't continue, because it manifests itself in what people are complaining about today.
Thank you so much. So we would have received some closing comments and the answer to a few questions from both Mr. West and Mr. Philbert. We have come to the end of our panel discussion in defense of a nation under siege. Let's discuss crime part 1. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Almighty God for a successful discussion where everything was done in decency and in order. TTT's acting CEO, Mr. Christophe Braffett, and all the hard-working staff at TTT, with special mention to Stacy and her team, Mel and the others, our sponsors, Calabash Productions, the Trinidad and Tobago Corporate Training Academy, Something Special, makeup artist Patrice Mingo, and this discussion would not have been a success without the panelists, Mr. James Philbert, former Commissioner of Police and Attorney at Law, Mr. David West, Director of the Police Complaints Authority, and of course, you, the viewing and listening public. You know, 2 Chronicles 7:14 says, and I quote, "If my people, we are his, we are a Trinity, my people who are called by his name, no other name, would humble themselves." You see, pride cometh before a fall, and pray, Trinbago, we need to pray. The studies were removed from the school system and in most cases have not been replaced. Therefore, I am pleading with all parents and guardians to teach your children how to pray and walk and live right. Your children are your responsibility. Prayer changes things, and love is the key. Then after you pray, seek his face, not your party emblem, not racism nor hate. We have to turn. I did not say the government nor any opposition preferred party. We as individuals have to turn. Most times we're waiting on God, and God is waiting on us. So tune in next week, Tuesday, same time, same place, and I will be joined by the Acting Commissioner of Police, Mrs. Erla Harewood Christopher, and the Honorable Fitzgerald Hines, Member of Parliament and Minister of National Security. Thank you so much. Good night.
The National Carnival Commission and Southex present the 2023 CSM Semifinals.